Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tony Holowitz, and in this tutorial, I want to talk to you about the slideshow aspect of working with a presentation. Obviously, after you do the presentation, you want to see what it's going to look like in a slideshow. So on the slideshow tab, I'm going to go through these items. Some of these items I don't personally use on a regular basis, and I don't feel qualified to really comment on them from a personal point of view. I'll tell you what they do and how I perceive that you could use them, but I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about this whole tab and go through it. So when you want to see a presentation, the first thing is if you click on From Beginning, you're going to see the slideshow from the very first slide. Now, what you're not seeing that I'm going to flip around is I have two monitors in my office. And on the second monitor, I have the ability to see the presentation in a smaller form as it, bear with me one second, I'm going to swap this over. So now I'm able to see this in a smaller form so that I can see this, review any notes or any information that pertains to this, and understand which is coming up next, which slide is coming up next. So in this particular slide, there's no notes. And as I click through this by going slide to slide, I can see the next slide and the next piece of information. So I can anticipate what's going to happen. Now, having said that, I'm going to flip back to the other screen. So now this is my primary presentation. This is what you're going to see on your end. Down on the bottom left, you'll notice I have some options down here. I have a forward arrow and I have a backwards arrow. I can mark this up by clicking on this little item down in the left. It looks like a highlighter, and I can say, you know what? I want to highlight this or draw. If I go back down there and click on that again, I can use all these options here. I can change the colors, I can use the highlighter, I can use a laser pointer, highlighter, eraser, or I can erase all the ink on the slide. So as you're going through a presentation, this gives you the ability to work with some things. You can also magnify. There's some other items down here I'm going to recommend strongly that you take a look at. But for the most part, when I'm doing a presentation, I use the right and left arrow key to go through the slides. The right arrow key takes me forward. The left arrow key takes me back if I want to go back to a point. So this is how you run a presentation on your computer so you can see it. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to hit the escape key to get back here to the main presentation. You can also run it from the current slide if you just want to see what this slide is going to look like. There's an option here where you can present your presentation online. Now I'm going to click on this. I'll tell you I've never used this. I've read a little bit about it. But in a nutshell, once you go through this process, you're going to have a hyperlink that you could email to people so they can see your presentation live. Now, personally, if I was going to be at that point, I would have thought this through before this, and most likely what I would have done is I would have taken that presentation, uploaded it to a service like YouTube, or a free service like YouTube, I should say, and then make that YouTube video available to them. Now, you can make videos private, you can share them, there's a bunch of things you can do. The next thing I want to talk about is the custom slideshow. So you can do a custom show, and maybe where this comes into play is, let's say you're traveling from city to city, and one night you're in New York City. So you want to put some things in this slide that have New York City in it. But the next night you're in Boston, and maybe the next night you're in Toronto. Well, you can customize a slideshow to impact the area you're in and save it as such. Personally, what I would do is I would have anticipated that I was going to different cities. I probably would have had a slide in here that I created specifically for each city. And then what you can do is right click on the slide. I'm going to click close. You can right click on the slide and you can hide it. So I might hide the New York City and Boston slide. So when I'm in Toronto, that's the only thing they see, and vice versa. I would simply, instead of doing it inside, I would do a file, save as, and I would call it the Toronto presentation, the New York presentation. But that's just me. So again, you can hide a slide by right-clicking on it and hiding it, okay, by going down below. You can also come up top and hide the slide that way. It's hidden because there's a line going through the two. If I want to unhide it, I can right click and hide the slide or unhide it by clicking on the option again. And again, I don't see the line going through the two. So that's how I know. Regarding rehearsed timings, this is something I've never really done, but it probably makes sense to get into and learn a little bit more about. You can also record the slideshow right within PowerPoint, but I found there were limitations here, and there are tools that are inexpensive to use, some even free, that you can get and purchase that, in my opinion, just do a better job. You can keep the narrations if you decide. There's media controls, which were those things down on the bottom left-hand side that I can turn off so they're not available. I can choose which monitor, if you have more than one, is your primary monitor. And the screen that I showed you earlier that I brought over to this was the presenter view. Okay, so here are some things in the slideshow that you can work with. And you can also use subtitles. And again, I've never done that. I don't have any direct experience with that, but you can use subtitles because presumably Microsoft has the ability to translate this with their services. Again, I would look into that more. And this area of PowerPoint, again, I think is so individual, it just goes down to your experience. So ladies and gentlemen, I just want to give you a little information on the slideshow option here. I know that's not everything. It's a little bit incomplete, but I just want to get your feet wet in this area. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye now.